Before I begin, before I try to put this memory into words, before I open a chapter I've kept closed for far too long, I need to ask you for something small. Just 1 second of your time. If you believe that stories can mean something, if you've ever felt something you couldn't explain, if you've ever sat beside someone and still felt completely alone, then subscribe to this channel. Not because this is some loud, dramatic story meant to shock you, not because it's filled with chaos or unbelievable twists, but because the story you're about to hear is quiet. And quiet stories, they don't fade. They stay. They sit with you long after the screen goes dark. So if you're here, stay with me, because this isn't just about one night. It's about everything that led to that IT should have been an ordinary evening. That's the strange thing about moments that change everything. They don't arrive with warning. No music. No signal. No dramatic build-up. Just routine. Our home had settled into one. Not the kind of rhythm you feel when two people are still discovering each other, but something slower, heavier, like a song that had been played too many times. A song that no longer made you feel anything, but still filled the silence. I stood at the bedroom doorway, the same way I had started doing without realizing it. One shoulder resting against the frame. Pausing. Waiting. As if some part of me already knew what I would find inside, and needed a moment to prepare for it. She was sitting on the edge of the bed. My wife. Her back slightly curved forward. Not broken, not defeated, but tired. Not the kind of tired sleep fixes. Something deeper. The soft glow of her phone lit her face, pale blue light washing over her features. It softened her. Almost erased her. She didn't look like the woman I used to know. And yet she did. That glow. It reminded me of something. Candles. We used to light candles. I know how that sounds small, insignificant. But there was a time when those small things mattered. We used to create moments. Simple dinners that felt meaningful. Music playing quietly in the background. Conversations that didn't rush to end. We didn't just exist together. We were present. Now, something else had moved in between us. Silence. And silence, when it stays too long, stops being empty. It becomes something alive. Something that grows. That I cleared my throat gently. Not to interrupt. Just to say, I'm here. Hey, I said carefully. You coming to bed? She didn't look up. Her fingers kept moving across the screen. Careful. Her voice was soft. Not angry. Not cold. But it carried weight. Like I had stepped into a space I wasn't invited into. And then the words came. I'm too tired. 3 simple words. 3 reasonable words. 3 words you can't argue with. Because how do you argue with exhaustion? You don't. You accept it. You tell yourself it's not personal. But when something repeats, it changes. What once felt like explanation starts to feel like distance, like rejection. I nodded, like I always did. Okay. I turned off the lamp and lay down. The mattress shifted slightly under my weight. I faced the wall, staring at nothing, waiting. Waiting for her footsteps. Waiting for the bed to move again. Waiting for something, anything, that meant we were still there. Together. But instead, I heard her walk away. Out of the room. Down the hallway. Into somewhere else. And in that quiet, a question finally surfaced. One I had been avoiding for months. How did we get here? Morning didn't bring answers. It rarely does. Morning brought routine. Coffee brewed in silence. Cabinets open, closed. 2 people moving around each other like strangers who had learned each other's patterns, but forgot each other's hearts. We weren't fighting. We weren't arguing. And somehow, that made it worse. Because at least anger means something is still alive. This felt like nothing. Around 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. And everything shifted. Jenna, my wife's best friend. The kind of person whose energy enters a room before they do. Light. Effortless. Warm. She stepped into the kitchen like she belonged there. And then it happened. My wife laughed. Not a polite laugh. Not a forced one. A real laugh. Full. Unfiltered. Alive. It stopped me mid-sip. Because I hadn't heard that sound in a long time. And suddenly, I wasn't looking at the woman I had been living with. I was looking at the woman I had fallen in love with. And a thought crept in. Quiet but sharp. Why was it so easy with her, but so hard with me? Dinner that night felt different. Music played. Wine poured. Conversation flowed. It almost felt like, before. Like we had somehow stepped back in time. But hope in fragile moments, is dangerous. Because it makes the fall harder. After dinner, she stood up. I'm going to sleep. I'm exhausted. Again. That word. Exhausted. But not for everything. Just for me. She left. And the house changed again. Silence returned. But this time, it wasn't empty. Jenna stood beside me at the sink. Water running. Dishes clinking softly. And then she said something that I wasn't ready to hear. She's pulling away from you, isn't she? I froze. Because it wasn't judgment. It was truth. I see it, she said quietly. You look lonely. Lonely. That word hit differently. Because loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being invisible. Even when someone is right next to you. And before I knew it, I was talking. Not everything. But enough. Enough to admit that something was breaking. She listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't fix. Just listened. And sometimes, that's all a person needs. You deserve to be seen, she said softly. And something shifted inside me. Not desire. Not temptation. Recognition. I'm not tired, she added. And those words, they lingered. Upstairs was my wife. The life I had built. The person I chose. And in front of me was someone who saw what I had been ignoring. Two truths colliding. And in that moment, I realized something important. Temptation doesn't begin with attraction. It begins with absence. That's where most stories take a different turn. That's where mistakes happen. That's where regret begins. But that's not what happened. Because sometimes, the harder choice is the right one. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was tempted, but because I was clear. Clear about what was missing. Clear about what I had been avoiding. Clear about what needed to be said. The next morning, I spoke. Not perfectly. Not confidently. But honestly. I feel alone. The words felt unfamiliar. Heavy. Real. She looked surprised. Then defensive. But I didn't stop. I didn't blame. I didn't accuse. I just told the truth. And slowly, something changed. She listened. Really listened. And then, for the first time, she said something I hadn't heard before. I didn't realize I was shutting you out. Her exhaustion wasn't me. It was everything else. Stress. Pressure. Silent battles she never spoke about. And in that moment, she looked at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. That we didn't fix everything that day. There was no dramatic ending. No perfect resolution. But something came back. Effort. And sometimes, that's where healing begins. Here's what I learned. Temptation doesn't destroy relationships. Silence does. Neglect does. Distance does. Jenna didn't break anything. She revealed what was already fragile. And once something is revealed, you have a choice. Ignore it. Or face it. That if you've stayed this long, maybe this felt familiar. Maybe you've felt that distance. Maybe you've been the one pulling away. Or the one left wondering why. Either way, don't wait. Don't wait until silence becomes permanent. Don't wait until someone else notices what's missing. Say something. Before it's too late. And if this story made you feel something, even for a moment, subscribe. Because the quiet stories are the ones that matter the most.